Hey everyone, so I'm back with another video, and in this video, I'm going to be recommending some books. Now, winter is just around the corner, it's the end of November, and I have here a huge stack of books, which I think if you are somebody who enjoys something dark, mysterious, or something a little bit on the side of whimsical. Not exactly whimsical, but something cozy. That's the better word, cozy. Then you would actually enjoy these books. Now, there are some classics here, and I must say that these books are not entirely winter themed. Some of them are obviously set during the winter season. Some refer to winter season in parts of the book or in parts of the novel. These are all fiction, by the way. And basically they not all of them are just set in winter. That's what I just wanted to specify, but there are obviously moments in all these books where the author is describing snow or winter or the coming of winter. And there are a couple of books here which do not really describe winter at any point, but it's very dark and mysterious and thrilling. So I think that's one of the major genres that people usually resort to during winter. I mean, I always enjoy just snuggling in with a warm blanket and cocoa on the side and reading something which is really dark, mysterious, and thrilling and icy. So yeah, I just hope you enjoy this video. If you do, let me know in the comments if you know some better books or other books that you would think would make perfect company during winter. Then just let me know in the comments. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first book on the list is, of course, Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I obviously had to I had to put this book on this list because I think this is like a must read for somebody who is willing to read a book which is winter themed. I mean, this is the book, right? I mean, I read it a long time ago when I was a kid. I feel like I will read this book again by the end of December. The best time to read this book, of course, I think is basically 24th and 25th of December. If you are a regular reader, this will be a pretty good book to just pick up over the weekends and get done with it. So yeah, it's pretty small but a very engaging story, and it's really warm and cozy as well. And also, if you're somebody who's looking to get into Victorian literature, I think this can be your gateway. I'll read the blurb at the back. A celebration of Christmas, a tale of redemption, and a critique on Victorian society. Dickens's atmospheric novella follows the miserly penny-pinching Ebenezer Scrooge, right? I'm pronouncing it right, right? Ebenezer Scrooge, who views Christmas as humbug. It is only through a series of eerie, life-changing visits from the ghost of his deceased business partner Marley and the spirits of Christmas past, present, and future that he begins to see the error of his ways. With heart-rending characters, rich imagery, and evocative language, the message of A Christmas Carol remains as significant today as when it was first published. So, there's Christmas Carol. Then the next book is White Nights by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Now, I recently got this book as a birthday present for my friends. I have been wanting to read this book for so long because if you have been a consistent member of the booktube community, you must have come across at least one recommendation of this book. Right, so literally so many people have been talking about this. This book has been around since ages and suddenly just, is all the hype, which I don't know why, but the thing is, I have read Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky, which is also on the list, and I'm coming to that soon. So I wanted to explore obviously more of Dostoevsky. I have The Idiot, the Brothers Karamazov as well with me, and I'll go to those books. I'll move to those books a little later. At first, I want to read this. So I have been hearing a lot of good reviews about this book. It's heart wrenching, but obviously it's something to pick up on a cold winter night. It's about unrequited love and just sort of a monologue, I think. Mostly it's monologue. I don't think there's a lot of dialogue. There are, but I don't think there's a lot. This is again a novella. It's very short. Again, this is another book that you can finish like within a couple of days or just in one day if you just read it throughout the day. It's very small and I don't think it's very difficult to read either. I'll read the first line, maybe the first part of how the novella starts. A sentimental love story from the memoirs of a dreamer. Or was his destiny from the start to be just one moment near your heart? Ivan Turgenev. The first night. It was a wonderful night, the kind of night, dear reader, which is only possible when we're young. So, that's White Nights for you. I haven't read this book yet. It's on my list and I plan to read it in December. Once I do, I will put up a short review about this novella as well. So that's White Night. The next book is Snow by Orhan Pamuk. So I haven't read any books by Pamuk yet. So this is technically my first book. My first book. Wait, how am I supposed to frame that sentence? Anyways, so this is the first Pamuk that I'm going to read. I'm really excited for this. I got this book a while ago, but for some reason I didn't pick it up. I ended up, shifting to different books and starting or reading different books. It happens to book hoarders. We hoard, but then we eventually come around to reading those books as well. It takes time, but we do. So yeah, this is I think it's more like more like his memoir about Istanbul. Yeah, so I'll read the blurb at the back. A novel of profound relevance to the present moment, the times. As the snow begins to fall, a journalist arrives in the remote city of Kars on the Turkish border. The city he finds is a troubled place. There's a suicide epidemic amongst its young women. Islamists are poised to win the local elections, and the head of the intelligence service is viciously effective. Soon, the growing blizzard cuts off the outside world, and the stage is set for a terrible and desperate act. Orhan Pamuk's magnificent and controversial new novel evokes the spiritual fragility of the non-Western world, its ambivalence about the godless West, and its fury. So yeah, it sounds very interesting to me. It's definitely the kind of book to pick up if you're somebody looking for something thrilling, something adventurous, something mysterious. If you have read this book, do let me know. No spoilers, of course. Do let me know in the comments how you found this book. So that would be a great help. Because I haven't heard a lot of reviews about this book. I have heard reviews about The Red and I think some of his other, more popular novels. This is not as popular as his other novels, but I can't wait to read it nonetheless. This is Italo Calvino's If on a Winter's Night, a Traveler. So this is a contemporary novel. It's a bit of an experimental fiction. Apparently, the author basically talks to the reader, and you are basically a character in this novel. So it's very interesting, the structure. Calvino's masterpiece opens with a scene that's reassuringly commonplace, apparently. Indeed, it's taking place now. A reader goes into a bookshop to buy a book, not any book, but the latest Calvino, the book you're holding in your hands. Or is it? Are you the reader? Is this the book? Beware. All assumptions are dangerous on this most bewitching switchback ride to the heart of storytelling. So I am really looking forward to reading this. It's again a very interesting, mysterious kind of novel. Like mysterious in the sense that, when you start reading the novel, you won't exactly get where it's going or how it's gonna pan out. And you are a character in this novel. So in itself, it's a very, very interesting read. It's The Name of the Rose. This I have read. And I must say, so all the next books are books which I have read. So I can talk about them a little bit more. So this is Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. this is a ride. This was a ride. I mean, obviously. It's insightful, educative, thought provoking, really dark and mysterious and icy, and it takes place in 14th century, but it starts from the end of November. The first part begins like this. It was a beautiful morning at the end of November. So, this is the end of November. Maybe you should just pick this book up now itself. I can reread this book, honestly, and even though I know what happens in the end. Okay, so I'll read the blurb at the back. The year is 1327. Brother William of Baskerville arrives at a wealthy Italian abbey on theological business. When his delicate mission is overshadowed by 7 bizarre deaths, Brother William turns detective. He collects evidence, deciphers secret symbols and coded manuscripts, and digs into the eerie labyrinth of the abbey, where extraordinary things are happening under the cover of night. A spectacular, popular, and critical success, The Name of the Rose is not only a narrative of a murder investigation, but an astonishing chronicle of the Middle Ages. And I must say that if you are an avid reader, you will definitely love it as well. I mean, you will love it, and you will also feel very, I mean, I don't know, you might have mixed feelings while finishing the book or after you finish the book. Regardless, you will really enjoy it because, you know, the mystery is centered around this addendum, which is this huge library, and where there are plenty of like old scriptures, manuscripts, and books. And there's also a lot of discussions surrounding philosophers, books, and certain fictions, non-fictions. There's a lot of philosophical debates between the characters as well. So if you're somebody who really likes philosophy or likes to delve into fiction which deals with heavy philosophy or philosophical discourses, then you will also enjoy this book. Once the story takes momentum, it's impossible to just stop in between. Trust me on this. So yeah, Name of the Rose, Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. So this was my first Dostoevsky, and just like that, he became one of my most favorite authors of all time. So I did hear a lot of good reviews about this, and honestly, none of the reviews turned out to be false. I absolutely adored this book. I absolutely enjoyed it way too much. Now, Dostoevsky is somebody who delves deep into human psychology, right? The human psyche. And I am somebody who really enjoys delving into character psychology, or how the characters are thinking, their thought processes. And the way Dostoevsky does this is very intricate and very delicate. It feels very personal, to be very honest. And this book is non-stop action. Not action in the sense, I mean non-stop anxiety, to be very honest. Like if you start this book, you will not be able to stop until you finish this book. It's that gripping, honestly. And it's set in, I think, 19th century Russia. It's set in Petersburg, St. Petersburg. And it's basically surrounding this one man who commits a severe crime, a grave crime, and then the entire novel is just surrounding him, the characters who are somehow related to him, and somehow who he encounters in his life. And basically it's surrounding his anxiety and this feeling of constant guilt and pressure, after having committed the crime. Like he's spiraling into this negative self introspection, and at the same time a sort of very brutal negative analysis of his own actions, his life. So it all basically is rooted in a sort of a theory that he believes in, a sort of class difference theory that he believes in, based on which he basically published an article, and that actually received quite a lot of attention. There are very interesting characters here. The protagonist definitely is a very interesting character, but the other characters, like the detective who is involved here, and then there is this another side character who comes a little later in the book, and also there's another very important. There are a lot of there are not a lot of characters, but all the characters who are there are very closely connected to the protagonist. I'm not saying too much because if I do that, it'll be a lot of, I mean, there will be a lot of spoilers, right? It's best if you discover all of that yourself. And the way it ends, the way the book ends, it's brilliant because it's just, builds this tension throughout the book. It keeps you hooked. And then towards the end, it feels like, with the protagonist, you're also feeling this kind of a cathartic, you're having this kind of a cathartic experience. The tension gets released altogether at once, and it's just wonderful how the epilogue just spans out after that. And it's actually wonderful. So it's very gripping, it's very dark, it's very mysterious, and there's a lot of, intellectual, philosophical, and psychological, I wouldn't say discourses as much as, it makes you think along those lines. The next book, I'm pretty sure all of you guys are familiar with. I mean, these are all pretty famous classics. So yeah, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. So you won't believe, I actually recently read it. It was like, I read like a few months ago. I got this copy as a gift from one of my friends. It's a classic book to pick up in winter. It's warm, it's cozy. If you're looking for a light read, a cozy, not a light read in fact, but a cozy read, and it will keep you engaged from the beginning till the end. There are some interesting, funny moments, and there are also a lot of moments where you'll feel like, okay, what is happening? Come on, like, get together already. Or just, just say what you want to say. Or why exactly are you saying this? Like, how? Where is your conscience? You'll understand what I'm talking about if you read the book. So, yeah, it's a very interesting read, a fun read. Yeah, that's Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Love is in the air in Hertfordshire as Elizabeth's sister Jane and Darcy's best friend Charles fall in love, but Darcy and Elizabeth continue to clash with each other. I really love the banter between Elizabeth and Darcy. And who doesn't love Mr. Darcy? Mr. Darcy, right? The dream man of, like, for every woman out there. Amidst the battles of wits, society balls, and family turbulence, will they come close, or will their opposing personalities drive them farther away from each other? Are first impressions always true, or does love deserve a second chance? Austen explores this and much more in the classic romance tale that will make you fall in love with love. I really love what's written in the back because it's so wonderfully describes the vibe of the book. So the next book that I have on the list is a book that I recently read. It's Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Now, it does take place in winter, and there are lots of descriptions about the meadows, about the meadows in an English countryside, and winter as well. It's very warm and cozy at certain points, but it's also quite sad and dark at certain points. But it's a wonderful book, and I think it is a very essential read for women, because I think for its time it was quite progressive in terms of evoking feminist ideologies in women through fiction. It did a wonderful job there. I mean, for that age, for that time, Jane is definitely an extremely interesting and a really strong female lead, one of the best female leads that I've ever come across. There are very interesting points in the book which talk about the class differences in the society, women's position in the society, gender discrimination at multiple levels, not just, in how women are treated in the society in general. Like, it deals with it very intricately and from the roots. And the characters here are quite interesting. None of the characters are like completely black or white. They're all gray. It's kind of, that's a more prominent area of concentration in Crime and Punishment. I mean, the characters are all extremely gray. In Jane Eyre, it's not as strong, obviously, as in Crime and Punishment, but definitely that is there. You cannot really judge the characters on the basis of their, surface level actions. You really have to go deep into analyzing their perspectives, judgments, and their psyche in order to kind of chalk out a proper character analysis. You can't really categorize whether this person is just completely black or this person is completely white. I mean, you know, metaphorically speaking. So, yeah, so it's like, all these characters are different shades of gray. So that's interesting. I always enjoy a sort of fiction or those kinds of writings which, make you think about human conduct and behavior and highlights the complexity of human behavior rather than just, spoon feeding how different characters should be perceived or are to the readers, and leaving it all up to the readers to interpret, the true essence of the character. I can tell you shortly that this is about this girl who was orphaned at a very young age, and then she started living with her aunt after her uncle passed away. And then, after reaching a certain age, she became infamous amongst her, you know, aunt and her cousins and other people. Basically, she was now termed as somebody who was wild and needed to be tamed. That's why she was sent off to school, um, basically a Catholic school, if I'm not wrong. And there she received a very rigorous training, and a lot of things happened. After that, obviously, I mean, I'm not telling you those things and events because that will be spoilers. And then she moves to Thornfield Hall, where she becomes a governess and meets Mr. Rochester, who's technically her master. And I can tell you this much, that it's a love story, or it's a story of basically the relation between her and Mr. Rochester that builds over time and takes different shapes and forms. Um, it's interesting how the story, goes through different phases of their relation with each other, their feelings for each other. That much I can tell because I do have another copy of Jane Eyre, and it's written at the back that it has a blurb at the back that, it's a classic romance story or a classic love story between Mr. Rochester and Jane Eyre. So yeah, but how anything happens, how things, develop and evolve later on. I'm not going to say any of that because that'll be spoiler. So that's like a brief overview of what the novel is mostly about. So that's Jane Eyre. Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Now, again, it's not a book which is entirely set in winter. It starts off in winter, centered around two main characters, Anna, obviously, Anna Karenina, and Levin. Now, Levin, I really love Levin, okay? He's one of my favorite characters. So I really love how he also develops and changes his perspective about life and meaning throughout the course of events that happens in this book. And it's basically a book that deals with these two lives parallelly. They meet at one point in the book, but that's like towards the end. It's not about their relation with each other, it's about their lives in isolation from each other's. And they have a lot of, mirror effects, like Anna's life and Levin's life. There's a lot of similarities and a lot of dissimilarities. When you finish the book, you'll understand why these characters were dealt parallelly throughout the book. And all the characters here in this book are also very complicated and very interesting to delve deep into. And the story actually it's big, okay? Lots and lots of things happen, both in the lives of Levin as well as in the life of, Anna. And there are loads of characters, but the thing is, when you start reading the book, it's easy to read actually. For a classic, it's comparatively easier to read, and the book just draws you in. Leo Tolstoy had this wonderful tendency of keeping readers hooked, but not with thrill and mystery, but with a very interesting narrative style that just keeps you hooked or makes you want to keep on reading over and over, like just, continue reading until you finish the book. So it's a wonderful read again to pick up in December, because yeah, I mean, there's a description of all seasons. Like it's a novel, it's a story that spans across lots of years, lots of seasons. But it starts off with winter, and definitely a book that, evokes deep personal introspection at times. I mean, at least I felt that way. And I think you will also, if you do give enough time to kind of, read about the characters, their relations with each other, and how things pan out towards the end, how the relations evolve, develop, or don't. So, yeah, it really makes you think about, there are times when you do get, these questions in your head about life, about death, about existentialism, and at the same time about complex human behavior, acceptance in life, grief, and then overcoming grief, accepting life as a whole, or not being able to accept life. So there are multiple, themes about life and relations in this book, which I think is a really great read in general, irrespective of whichever season you're picking up. But in winter, I think it'll give you overall a very interesting, it will help, not help, it will lead to an interesting vibe overall. So, yeah, that's the last book on the list. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to, leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of content in the future. And I will see you in the next video. Ciao!